He's on track to be cleared for that game on Sunday. The suspension has not been lifted as of yet, but he's continued to make progress towards that end. And, there were a bunch of stipulations initially that the Nets had put forth as far as things Kyrie Irving had to do before he could get back on the court. Those stipulations changed over time. And one of those initial stipulations was Kyrie Irving completing a $500,000 donation to anti-hate groups through a partnership with the Nets and the ADL, and also, meeting in person with the ADL. And I don't think that stipulation still exists. I don't think Kyrie, at least, is going to have to donate that money before he gets back on the floor. Things have shifted around a little bit, but nonetheless, yeah, he's continued to progress here, and it seems like he will be ready to go back on the floor Sunday against Memphis. Yeah, the Steve Nash stuff was interesting because I had always assumed that those two were pretty much on the same page, because Kevin Durant had a relationship with Steve Nash going back to Golden State when Nash would kind of consult with Steve Kerr. And I don't know how much input Kevin Durant had on the hiring of Steve Nash, but I would assume that he at least greenlit it. And so now it comes out, Kevin Durant says that those guys were not on the same page with regards to how to approach the game, how to approach practices. Just fascinating. And in a big picture sense, I mean, I still think that Kevin Durant trade request kind of looms over everything here. If the Nets, Kyrie Irving comes back, Ben Simmons kind of rolls back into form, and the Nets can start rolling, I think everything could be okay. But if things kind of fall apart, I think that trade request, even if it doesn't come back in the form of a trade request, is very much still on the table. It's what teams are keeping an eye on here when they look at the Nets and they look at Kevin Durant's future. Yeah, I think that frustration dates back to when they traded for him, because if you think back to that time, and the talk, at least from Simmons and from the Nets, was, he's going to need a couple weeks to ramp up, but he's feeling good. And, they expected him to be back on the court at some point in the regular season. And obviously you go weeks and weeks and weeks, and Simmons does not get back on the court, doesn't return to the floor in the playoffs. And then you're coming off of a full off season for Simmons, and it's taken him a while to get back to form. I think that's expected, but I think what the Nets didn't know was how long it would actually take him to get back on the court. And that's your big return in the James Harden trade. So, from a big picture sense, that trade has been a mess, and it will be a mess unless and until Ben Simmons starts to come back into form. I think the Nets can afford to be patient here, because, it's not like they're going to lose the East or be out of playoff position in the first couple of months of the season. So I think they can afford to let Simmons take his time. But I think that frustration, again, dates back to last season when the Nets expected Simmons to be on the floor, and he was not able to get back on the court.